we're going to talk about texturing. Ray and I did a demo here some months ago on texturing boxes. And that's boxes. This is a whole nother ball game when you're trying to do it on bowls. Bowls present some problems. And we're going to talk about those tonight. We'll talk about the tools, the woods. We'll try to get all that in there. I'm going to show some of these. These are all hard maple. And the texturing up here on the rim, we can see that one on there. It also is textured on the bottom. You'll notice the texturing is fairly simple. On a bowl, the more you try to put into it, the more problems you can run into with because you're turning grains, long grain, short grain, or end grain, and it just doesn't cut the same. And some spaces are different when they hit. And then you go in, you know where you're. Does everyone know where the tear out occurs in a bowl, right? Well, guess what? That little thing called tear out can happen on the bowl the same way here and the same way on this side. As the bowl's coming around, it has a tendency to want to go into that long grain running here, and it can tear it up, especially when it gets into it. So if you look at these bowls, you can feel, this one especially right in there, you can feel some of those on that one.
Yeah. Pass it around.
This is another piece that is moldy maple. You can put these in the, wrap them in clear plastic, and they do mold, but some people have allergies, may be offended by that. But the look is pretty good, so it doesn't bother me to have that in my wood. The thing with this one is, I have put black wax into the texturing, so they are a little more pronounced, and you can see right in there where it really kind of pops it.
Where do you get the black wax?
I use black wax. I just use a Pearl X black powder, and I have a can full of Johnson's paste wax. I take a little Johnson's paste wax, put it on a piece of masonite, and then I dump a little bit of the black powder, and I do that with all my Pearl X colors. Anytime I want to put color and wax into something, I just make my own. It costs way too much for rub and buff and all those. Here's a little different look to things. This one, you're dealing with curvature back in. And I'm going to talk about the difference between a straight-on rim and sometimes when you're trying to do things that are curved, and some of the problems you can run into there. As you can see, the layers come all the way down to the apex. Excuse me, the texturing comes all the way down to the apex. So the whole rim looks pretty good with that. And then I did also inside the groove and outside the groove. And setting these things off by either a point of a skew or your beading tools or using a 3/8 inch spindle gouge can really help set the boundaries for your texturing on those. So that's another one there. We'll pass that one.
Do you make the boundaries before or after?
That's a good question. We're going to talk about where and why on some of those. As we learned in the texturing of boxes, that most of the things I did there I put on before I ever started cutting the box apart and putting in the hollowing it out and all that. My texturing was laid down. Then I came back with the finishing, and I put the beads in it and some of those things. Put that on there. Okay, now we need to talk a little bit about the tools. These are all Sorby Mini, I call them Mini Texturing Tools. And if we can look at these closely, this one, you can see they're fairly small teeth, but they're flat across here, so there's some width to it. This one is similar, but you can see how wide the teeth are here. on the gear. And this one has been sharpened. I do that on a CBN wheel grinder. I don't recommend it unless you have a pretty steady hand and you just kiss it enough to spin the wheel. You don't want to hold that against there too hard or you're going to end up with a lot of problems on the finish side. The best way to do it, if you're going to do it with it moving, is to put it into the wood, hold a diamond stone or a card against it as it's rotating, so you have it spinning in the wood, and that's really holds it in place. And then you can just take that card and just stroke it, or you can do it by hand, which is slow, tedious, and may not be uniform when you get done with that either. But this is two of them. This one is the one that's all points, and we'll talk about what to use and when to use it, and maybe how to move it around a little bit on that also. So these are about I brought all three of them, and you'll notice I have them on wood, long wood handles. I believe that helps the stability. I can hold it better. I can run it up my arm and hold on to it to keep it from moving too much, which is a real problem. The other thing you know is they have the sissy helper here, and that lays flat on the tool rest and allows you to pretty well solidify the movement of it, other than laterally. It will move. If you take this off, you can roll it, you can do some other things with, but we're pretty satisfied with not putting too much design into those bowls at that point. I'm going to show you another one here. This one, I just rather overdid the texturing a little bit on this. But, you know, we're talking about putting in details and things. This is texturing by laying the tool down and moving the helper on there and more at a 45-degree angle. So it's cutting these, when it rotates, it's cutting them that way. And then these are the little holes in here are done with it straight up on there. These again are textured at 45 degrees, and then you can see on the beads here, this one I've allowed a little bit of movement, so they're a little bit longer. This one here, you see double dots. Geez, I'm talented. Double dots. Did I do that on purpose? No. It does what it wants to do sometimes. And here you can see this one. Again, there's some movement in it. So I stretched them out a little bit. But all those were done with the pointed tool. And this, and this, and I believe even this one. Yeah, this one here was all done with this one tool. So if you're buying one, I would say buy one, but you're going to get more wheels with it. They give you two. The sad part is they don't give you this one. You have to buy this wheel for another $17 or whatever. Each one of these without a handle with the 10% off is in the 50s, $55 somewhere in there. And Ray bought his from Crown, I believe, on that one. But again, there's quite a bit of texturing going on here. And the bead was put in after this was cut. And then I came back and turned the bead. But if you look, I don't know if you picked this up, but if you look very closely, there's a whole bunch of little dots. They're lines, horizontal lines, right? Don't let the bug bother you. Little horizontal lines here, all the way around. They're very close together. Why are they close together? What's the speed in the center?
Slow.
0. So you're coming out here. This isn't moving very fast. And your texturing is, you got to take your time with it. As I moved out farther, it's moving faster, it's moving faster. So out here on the rim is the maximum speed for that. So what I'm going to be doing is adjusting from a faster speed here, and as I work out, I will slow the lathe down. You cannot do this with a manual belt changing lathe. It just doesn't work. You're locked in too much to one speed, and you have to jump 500 or 600 RPM all the time with it. Now, on the back, it's a different ball game because now everything's going the other way. This I felt was fairly simple. This I didn't have too much trouble holding the tool in place. Here, as soon as I started this elongated something, it went all the way out here. I lost it. It pulled that thing out. It wants to run. I want to use the example of getting a catch. I got a little too high on the wheel. The wheel, if I cut right at the nose, the center line, or I cut a little below it, I have a pretty good chance of staying there. If I move up a spoke or two here, or a point or two, it's going to catch it and run. Just like your gouge, when the wing catches, it will take off and run up the outside of the bowl on you. And now you got that nice big spiral. See, you're texturing already. This is just a little more refinement to it on that one. But that's a problem here. As you feel this bowl, as it passes around, you feel the outside here, you're going to feel a lot of tear out. And you sand these in the opposite direction with 400 or 600 grit sandpaper, and you can clean them up somewhat. But this is really, some of this is really just going back and forth. You can see where it chattered, things like that on it. Out here, pretty stable if I held it all in place. I want to bring your attention to this area right here. There's a lot of dots right in here. And that's done by just moving it over a 1/16 of an inch and hitting it again, moving it over a 1/16 of an inch, and pretty soon they just look like they were all put in there separately. But it's just one line, another line, another line, and because the rotation of the tool does not necessarily meet that last hole and the first hole may not line up together, it may take off and put extra dots in there for you. So I'm basically trying to move this over a little bit each time without having it catch on the top. Again, catch on the top up here, and it'll run. It'll run right up here and scar up the whole top of it. So I try to lock that in. I try to hold on to it.
When you say move over, are you referring to that you lift it up?
I'm moving down the tool rest,
Okay.
but my movement is very little,
Yeah, but you back it
and it's
off.
very slow.
Or
I
you-
did sometimes, yeah, depending on how much nerve I had.
Okay.
Yeah, and again, it's after doing this one, I lost a little of my confidence going into this one on that. Now this was not sanded. One thing I will do is I will sand this down to 600 before I texture it, because you cannot come back and grind out some 80 grit sanding. You have to sand this down to a finish, and then you can come back and put the texture in. If it doesn't work, then you have to take it off. You'll notice this bowl is fairly thick, and that's the time to do it. If I had this sanded, 600, and put my texture in it, I'm pretty well done with it, other than possibly doing a little work on the bottom area. I want to have most of that done. I can go up some when I take this off, take off my whatever that thing is, tenon, thank you, the tenon, and then I'm on the vacuum chuck. I will decorate the inside here, but I will decorate it only using the tool straight ahead. I will not try to pull that thing or push it, where if you're used to your vacuum chuck, if you cut across it too hard, you pull that right around on the vacuum, and next thing you know, it's going across the room on you. Never happens here. All right, so that's something you have to be aware of when you're doing the outside and you don't have any tailstock. I will do any texturing as much as I can with the tailstock up. And then when I finish that, I'll take the tenon off and I'll do a little bit inside it just to decorate that inside some on that one. Okay, the tool itself, these ride on a brass rod, threaded rod in here, and there is no bearing. So if you don't oil it and you run this thing too fast, you're going to wear out the brass, and if you find a replacement for it, let me know, because I don't see Sorby selling any of these. That's that way. I want to show you Ray, who has an unlimited budget.
No.
Unlimited?
Bought these from Simon Hope over in England. And this is definitely a step up. You can see the ball bearing in here works. I'm not sure, I'm sure he had a reason in the design, but these are all flattened. All the teeth on both of these are flattened, and the cuts are not quite as deep in the flutes themselves. So there's a reason for it, but it's in a steel handle. He's got it, you can tighten it up. And what was the price of these?
Oh, US dollars was 91, but then I got a 20% discount on it, so about $75.
Okay, that's for both or one?
Both.
For both of them. So that's in the ballpark with the Sorby, really.
Yeah.
Considering what you're getting here. Again, this is almost $60, and if you want to buy another wheel, you're going to put another $17 in there or so on that one. But we'll show you, I'll pass that around. These are interchangeable. You don't have to change the wheel. The wheel's in there. And so all you do is undo the Allen and unscrew it and work it that way. That's Simon Hope over in England on that one. This is a Starbond glue, super glue bottle. It is the best oiler I have. I can put the capillary tube on here and put 1 drop of oil, half a drop of oil on about anything I want. And they give you a lot of these when you buy 16-ounce bottle. They will give you at least 3 of these, and they'll give you a whole pile of capillary tubes. We have one up there in the cabinet if you want to look at it. Bob, can you pull that out there? There's a Starbond up in the cabinet right behind you on the left side. And those capillary tubes are really, really handy at putting on a drop of super glue exactly where you want to put it. Is that a Starbond bottle? I gotta have a Starbond bottle. So anyway, the only thing caveat here is, well, we lost the capillary tube off it. There's some more probably around here somewhere. Boy, there's not much glue left in it either on that one. The only caveat here is when you oil these and you put them on white wood, you've already darkened your texture. Yeah, because the black oil, it really, because of all the sawdust and stuff, it'll turn it black. And it's not bad. I'm sure some of those maples were done that way. But do not run these dry. Do not run them at high speed on those. Any questions on that? Okay.
Do we have a set here that members can use?
We do not. I bring these in if they ask, and they're welcome to use them if anybody wants to try them.
Okay.
That's fine. You know. But I do keep them at home because I do use them.
What's the name of the glue?
Starbond. Starbond.
Starbond glue. Yeah. And if you are an AAW magazine, and right now if you're ordering for the first time, you get 15% off.
15% off.
Ray just did that.
If you order 2 bottles of them, is that one word or 2 words? Starbond?
One word, I believe.
It is one word. But we ordered 2 bottles of them, Bob and I split it, but it came down to 41 1/4 bottles.
Yeah, it really helps if you get together with somebody and put it in your freezer 2 years, probably easily, maybe longer, as long as you keep it in the freezer. I buy the thin and 16 ounces and use it. Last time I bought 32. If you don't want all of them, bring it in here. We'll sell it for you. That's not a problem. I'm sure there's always somebody using super glue around here on that one. Okay.
We've got the 800 number for
I
them.
don't know why they keep it.
Now, what do I turn these things at? The recommended speed usually is about, they say 300 to 500. And that could be on boxes. It's arbitrary, so don't go by that. Most of mine I will turn, especially out here right now. I'll probably go down almost 300 here. I'm at 400 right now. And, whoop.
You said you couldn't use a belt drive?
Sorry?
You need the speed
Speed?
differentials.
Okay.
You can't, most belts you can't get down to 300.
No.
Most
It's
of,
just too hard to change it, you know. It's a big step from one to the other.
Yeah.
Now,
usually the minimum is about 500 to 600 is the minimum on a belt.
you
Yeah.
don't want to put this right up against the wheel because it's going to be a little hard on the teeth. So you bracket it off, and you'll notice I'm backed off almost 2 inches here. Another reason I like the long handle. I can hold this, I can put it where I want it. And here I'm a little bit long, I want to go in, and I can move up as long as I stay on that flat area here. This is if I wanted to move it, I would like to have it that way. I don't want to move it and try to hold it this way. I'd rather have that wider area on that one. But considering I'm going to go pretty straight here, is that too bright?
No, we're fine.
Okay, now, if I put this in here right now, there's a little negative bevel on this. If I put this in here like this, it's probably going to jump on me. So I'm going to put palm of my hand right on top of that baby. I'm going to hold on it. Can you still see it?
Sure.
I want to be at center. And right now I'm a little above center. You want to have that on the center line. And I'm going to kiss the wood. I'm going to really be very nice to it. I don't want to push it in there right away. All I want to do is get the wheel rotating. And you can tell I'm not pushing very hard. You're starting to see little dots or a line. So now that I have it running, now I'm pushing into it. I'm actually lifting the handle a little bit. And as I penetrate the wood, and then I just take it out. So you can see, hopefully.
Yep.
You see how the dots are there. Now, the next line, I'm going to speed the lathe up a little more. Let's see what happens then. So we're going to jump up about 50. Let's go 400. What the heck? Now, what happens the faster you go, it's trying to keep control of it can become a little more of a challenge. But we're going to go to the outside of that one. And again, I have my hand running on the tool. I got my arm against the tool, and I'm just going to kiss the wood. Now I can push into it harder.
Double knot.
And you can see them, they're changing as they go around. Right here, they're pretty well in line. They're changing as they go around. Right here, they're pretty well in line. It looks as though they're the same. There might be a few more on the outside one. But you can see where that, very similar. Okay, now, we're going to go to the inside, and we'll put another one of these because we can always cut it off. I'm going to get myself braced, just try to keep it. Now, one of the things with this wheel, I'm not sure, Sorby should have given out some washers. There's some kind of thin metal inserts here because you can see the wheel wobble. So sometimes when you think you've got it where it belongs, it may not end up there. And I'm going to bring this handle toward me a little bit more to make sure I don't run into the other texturing I have there. A good hard push. And now I have a whole nother set of lines all up here. So it gives you a pretty good idea when you're starting out with these tools, stay very basic. Learn to control the tool, learn different parts of the bowl, where they're going to move and what's going to happen to them. I'll just take this off. Take one of my favorite tools. I just reground one of these for Sherry. This is a D-Way. It's a spindle gouge that looks like a bowl gouge. And it's very handy for, I turned the inside of this bowl with it, or I cleaned it up at least, and I did some shear cutting inside the bowl to help clean that up a little bit with it. But it's a very handy tool for shear cutting. It's a very handy tool to use as a bowl gouge on smaller bowls. And I use it for undercutting rims. Now this is awfully slow, at least in my ballgame. I should have my safety glasses on now. As you can see, what's coming off of here if we catch some of these. That's how fine you can cut with these, with the wing on a gouge like this. You could use a bigger bowl gouge, but as long as you don't overextend it too far. It's like spider web. They cut very cleanly. Turn that around. Okay. Oh, I still have some dots left there. I penetrated better than I thought. This could go either way. Tell you what, let's turn it to the inside this time. I'm going to take this, turn it back this way. Hard maple, just a pleasure to turn it. We have some back here. You want to try it out? Okay, so now I just changed a little bit of the geometry here. This is going in toward the center of the bowl where the other one was going down to the outside of the bowl. All right? So, now I'm going to switch tools here a little bit. And this one's a big teeth, but on a bowl this small, I think I'd rather go with this one. And we're going to start with this one straight up. So you'll notice one side is straight, the other side has a bevel on it. So it's another thing you have to work with. If you want to have a triangle shape, you would pull this all towards you and pull it in, and we might try some of those with it. But right now we just want to get the basics in. And again, I'm at
Back down your speed, Bob. Go down.
Thank you. Put on my glasses too. There we go. And some more. I tell you, well, yeah, we're gonna run about 400 here
Yeah, that's better.
on this because of what it is. Now, right now I don't want to do anything but put it straight in there. So I'm going to pick the center because then I could put dots on either side of that. Just to make it look there. But you'll notice this is not in line with the bed of the lathe anymore. I'm tilted a little bit going that way with it, and that's to keep it on the flat. I don't want to run it, and I don't want it to take off on me. Again, I need to go over that way. I can see, I'm working at the front of the gears, or whatever those teeth are, just to see where they're going to land here. That's pretty straight. You'll find that a bevel to the inside of the bowl actually is easier to control than a bevel to the outside. And now you can see the dashes here. And a little bit wider. If we look at the geometry of this tool again, this is the flat side, and I was holding it over here. you could see what would happen if I held it this way. It would dig in more on this side. So I'm going to try to just go right back on those and kind of flatten, go this way this time. Oh, there it skated. I was trying to catch that edge and widen them out a little bit on the top edge. And it did. I don't know if you can see it on there, but there's some there, but I also put a whole bunch of dots up higher on that. Now I could turn a bead here. I could just take a skew and put a line in there. Depends on your skill level. If you want to accent, you don't want to just leave that like that. You'd like to accent it one way or the other. And I think I have. Oh. This is my detail skew. This is a used up planer blade. If you ever see planer blades in a flea market, garage sale, or whatever, grab them. This is very good high-speed steel, and they're very handy. They're never going to be very big because they're done with their usefulness. And again, I want to have this at center. I want to get a lot of tool support because this tool is not very thick. And I'm just going to scratch it in here. You could do it with piercing it, but right now we'll just keep it simple. And you can see where the groove adds a little bit to it. This time we'll just put a bead on it. I need a bead. This is also a Sorby, a D-Way 3/8" spindle gouge, but it's really pointed. It's a detail gouge for me. Now we have a bead right in there on that part.
Ooh.
No thanks. I'm way used to this one. Now I'm going to turn the other side into a half bead and actually take away a little bit of that texturing. So what did I do? By putting that bevel in there, I brought the texturing into a point where if we look at the bottom down here, you can see they're all open to that angle or that bevel on there. So it kind of makes you know that the two are together. It just tied the bead to it and acts as a kind of a guide to look into it on that one. Okay, so now I have one more thing I want to do here, and that I should have turned the speed up to turn that bead, but didn't hurt it much. I'm going to go back to the outside here. There's not a whole lot of room out here, but nothing ventured, nothing gained. I'm going to actually start, hopefully, in the left-hand side of those dashes. And you could put a pencil in the mark in here, whatever it's going to take to it. Hopefully the nose doesn't move too much. I might be a little short of my target, but I'm right at the point right there. It actually came out better than it would have been the other place. So now all those little dots are right on the tips of those dashes. Can you see it?
You get that?
That help that better on that side? All those little dots right there. So now I've made a pretty frame. I could roll this rim back a little bit. It's pretty sharp. I could sand it back, whatever level of skill there on that one. So those are pretty much the rim techniques on using these tools. And you can put the dashes on the outside and put the beads on the inside. Let's do one more. We're going to move the points, the little dots, back and forth. And we can take off that outside part. Bugs are out tonight. I'm going to roll that over just a little bit, take away that sharp edge. I've been cut before, and it's no fun. Need a little more out of there. I'm going to go back a little farther. Still got a few in there, but we'll get the idea. I'm going to pick up my dot, what I call a dot tool, on there. We're going to move around a little bit this time. So I'm going to just put it in lightly. Whoa. Turn down the leg. Way down.
You try and burn that bearing up.
What bearing?
Okay, we're running about 350 right now, if that thing's accurate. So then I can put it in, and I'm going to carefully block this with my hand and move it to the left. I just release some pressure, move it over. Release some pressure. It's still spinning. I kept it spinning, but I didn't have near the pressure on it. And here you can see all these nice. Notice the dots on the outside are a little more pronounced. I pushed in a little harder, so I actually can change the depth of those beads on that one. Send that one around. Want me to finish already? Okay. Now, if you're starting, I highly recommend you start with the plate. Okay, we got the grain going this way. We have a knot right here. Oh, that's going to make it a little bit harder. But we're going that way, so as we go around, and we get into the long grain again, we might have some problems in there. This will, because it's maple, this is probably the softest wood that you'd like to texture on. Walnut, if it's slow growing walnut or everything is kind of tight, this will work, but you have to be careful. Ray will show you an example in a show and tell where he had sapwood in the bottom on one of his turnings, and you'll see it tore it up pretty good. Tore it up somewhat on that because the sapwood is actually softer. But you can do it on here. It's not what I would say to start with. I'd rather start with a hardwood. A lot of people who texture actually use exotics. You get those good hardwoods. I don't know if it was sage orange. I have not tried that one. I refuse to put my chainsaw in those sage orange, so that could be.
I got a piece right here.
Yeah, it's wet though. Which
Yeah.
brings up another point. Don't try to texture wet wood. Ray can tell you
Doesn't work very well.
it can be difficult. So it can cause some problems for you. Okay, so we're going to turn the speed down this time. This is a little bit bigger diameter. This is running pretty true on this side, so that's going to help us. And we're going to go down and get back to that 300 here. 345, 325, 320 is good on that. All right, now here presents one of the problems with texturing. You see this? It's not always in an opportune place. I don't know if you can tell, but this is
The light. The
The
Oh,
light where he's working.
okay,
there you go.
gotcha.
This knob right here, that's where raise is a definite advantage. It's permanent. This one, the knob, you have to turn it or flip it, rotate it, one or the other. Because we have a fairly wide, we're going to put this on a slant just to move along here a little bit. So I'm going to turn this over, and you can see where now I have the knob away from the wood. This is indexed on here at someplace. There it is. So that's straight up, and you can turn it 45. There's notches on the helper, and that's 45 right there. But I'm going to cut with the bevel side. So I'm going to guesstimate this one a little bit. That's probably about 45 degrees. And this will spiral if I have it at 45 degrees. Sometimes if you do not have it there, it will not help quite as much. Yeah, would you hold that for me on that one? Okay. So now I want to leave room to the right because when I texture with or spiral with this, I might have to cut into it a little bit and put a detail in there to cover up something of that nature with it. I'm also going to have the handle a little bit toward me into my body on that one, and I want to move that way and keep my hand out of the way, I hope, on there.
Okay.
Now, same principle, and I'm cutting with the bevel side here. So I'm just going to come in nice and slow, and I'm getting a little close there. Raise the handle, I see wood coming off. Notice how slow I'm moving. I just lost it right there, so I have to quit. And you can see right where I lost it right here. And that's why I say put these in. I like to put them in with the wood fairly thick. And if I don't get it right, I got to take my gouge and turn it off. But can you see that there? Right there is where I lost it. And it didn't make a full revolution. It just tore it up right there on that. So that could be a problem if you try to put a design or something into it there. But let's see what we can do with that. First of all, we'll try to put just a line. Possibly like that. And you can see it, the scrape move right there tore that up a little bit. But I'd rather have a little bit coming that way, so I'm going to move the gouge over. And you could do this with a D-way parting or beading tool. Probably work pretty well. And there I just took about a third of that out of there. And that looks a lot better than where it was because I knew 20%. You can just see a little bit right there on that, but I was able to take that out of there some. So now I'm going to move to, let's say the gear. Let's go with the big gear. We haven't done anything with that one yet. And we can put that one on the outside. We're still running about 3 1/4. No, we're not. We'll turn it up. That's 200. 321 again, 309 in there on that one. Okay, so this one has it on the other side, and I think I have room to get it in there. I'm going to push that, and maybe I could do it with this one and get them, keep it all up there. Oh, excuse me, this one. But that's the bevel on that side. I want to use the straight side, okay? Bevel side, straight side. I'm going to bring it over quite a ways, get my arm on it to hold it all in place for me, and again, go up and just kiss into this. Now I'm going to push toward the projector over there. And all I'm doing is pushing. Pushing into that. I'm not trying to move it. I'm just pushing into it. I can see fuzzies coming out. And here you can see the diamonds. So I just put a whole bunch of diamonds, or arrowheads, however you want to refer to those. It just adds another one. Again, it's unlimited on things you could do to show different types of texture and without really moving a whole lot. As long as you can control the tool, you can put different types of things on there. Okay, we'll clean this up just quickly here. This maple was kiln dried back here in our converted freezer, and it might be a little harder than if you just dried it in the garage. It speeds it up. I can turn a bowl, dry a bowl in about 5 weeks. And I have a bunch in there right now, and I have another load at home, pretty much ready to go. I hope to have some black locust done soon. Now you saw the curls come off of there. That's what I would not call I almost see the difference in colors here. Let's drop the handle a little bit more on that. Handle goes way down. Make sure your tool is sharp. Just light. I want to make that shaving as long as I can coming down that wing. Notice I can go both ways. I actually get a smoother cut going against it from large to small, which is not supposed to happen. But I have to keep this in here, but I do want to slow the lathe back down. And now we talked about on the outside here, if I keep it simple, it works pretty well. If I block it with my hand, hold on to that thing and keep it from running down the bowl. So you all understand that part. So let's see if we can put the spirals in action and play with those a little bit more. We're going to turn this one, put it back.
Yeah, it is.
This is the pointed tool. We're going to have that one at 45 degrees. Oh shoot. Time out everybody. Tom has those good specs on tonight. And I turn it this way. It probably would work better if I turn it the other way. So you see what's going to cause me a problem here? It wouldn't take much to get high on that side. So now just like that catch on the wing of your tool, it's probably going to run on me there. So I'd rather have the points beveled to the right. I do have my knob up on that, and I want to go a little bit more.
Try the hole.
Pardon me?
Try the hole.
The other,
Try the hope.
The
Yeah,
hope?
it is.
Grab the hope?
Try the hope.
All right, Ray.
Right?
Trying to make you look bad. Somebody has the hope, Ray. They went out the door. Okay, fess up back there.
Oh, you caught me.
$79 isn't that bad. Have to do a little editing. Oh, this isn't good at all, Ray. Hey, Mr. Luckup, you're making me go on the outside of this bow with a tool that has no stability to it.
If you put that thing in there at an angle, just hold it in there, you
Here, hold this.
okay.
give it a go.
No comment.
Give it a go.
Slow it
Same
down.
speed?
Slow it down.
About 400.
400, okay. And again, depending on where you are on the bow, 416 ought to work. And you pull it slowly?
Yep.
Oh, I'm scared to death here. Jeez. It is smooth. I'm really watching to make sure I don't crawl up the other side as I move. That's about as far as I can move without moving my hand. I'm trying to loosen up my hand a little bit. That ought to give us an example.
Ooh,
Oh, nice job.
okay.
That's good.
So all you need to do is get one of these hope things. And Bob's hand.
This bow has some nice figure right in here, and you can see what it did. I mean, I hope you can see that.
Now, the light's too glaring, so.
It chewed it up.
Can't tell.
Roll the bowl a little bit.
Chewed it up quite a bit right there on that one. Okay, this is the import model. And
That's important.
Yeah, it is. This is important too.
now we'll try the other guy's import.
They're both imported.
British imports.
Yeah, same
We'll get our
country.
light back here where you can see us. And we're going up at a little more speed. I think I need to back that out just a little bit. It's a little bit past 45 right here. Thank goodness Ray has more equipment than I do. This is the fine tooth gear one compared to the heavier one. It's closer to what Ray had right there. That's one reason we have it. Okay. In very slowly. Oh yeah. There's a lot of wood coming off right now. I don't know, Ray.
Looking pretty good. You're right.
Those are pretty darn clean.
How did you do in the figure? Did it rip up the figure?
You think we can pick them up the second time here? Again, I'm going to try to find the groove. This is something you can work at and try to get better at doing this, to go down a second time. We did it quite often on the boxes. There, I just found the bottom of those spirals. So now I'm making them deeper. And we'll pass this around. You can see we're almost to the tip on every one of them now. Which brings up the next point, or lack of point. This is the gear, and you're going to see a marked difference in the spiral. If you do these like this, guess what you get? If I lay this all the way over and go up the bowl, what do I get, Ray?
Well, a bunch of tear out.
A whole bunch of beads.
What? Yeah, right.
I get a bunch of beads up the bowl, which seems like overkill to me. Yeah, you actually can turn it. I better put it where it belongs. Okay, we want to go the same way. Yeah. I go about 45 degrees here. Anything on it? Okay, same speed. And again, process is the same. I'm just going to hold. Now the difference here is I'm on the flat side. Here's the bevel, here's the flat side, but I'm still at 45, but it's a bigger spread between the gears. And this side is pretty sharp. The bevel's a little more, restrained. See quite a bit of wood coming off on my hand back there. You hear the end grain? As deep as I am, I think I'm going to find some tear out when I'm banging onto that. But look at the difference in these. Okay, so you see a whole lot more, yeah. They're wider, they're bigger, they're more pronounced. So it changes a lot of it there for that. If I turn it over, let's see, I don't think it's going to make a whole lot of difference.
Bob, those spirals are making an angle with the lathe bed of about 45 degrees.
45.
Can you change that angle? Make it 30 or 60?
I know when we did that on boxes, the tendency may not turn. It may just lock into the wood, and you couldn't get it to spin like that. The 45 is a compromised angle that allows it to
Okay, so that's what you got to do.
spin. But what we'll try this time is going the other way with it, 45 degrees. And we talked about what could happen here, and it may.
That's why we're sitting way back.
Yeah, this is tilted the other way. So, glad I went to the dentist today. Wasn't good though, I'll tell you that. And that's about where the end of that one is. So we're going to go a little bit farther. I want to move my tool rest some. I'd like to be fairly parallel to the wood itself there. Now you can see what I'm going to be, if I'm cutting over here, I can push it or I can try to pull it, but when I pull it, there's a lot of torque trying to flip this tool on me. So I'm going to go over on this side and work this way. This time I'm going to raise the tool, drop the handle. Oh, can you hear that rattling going on? I tried dropping it, and it's really hard on this one. Look at all that mess. So different approach. Just flipped over. You can see it's all chewed double, triple here on that one. And that's primarily because I went this way rather than having 45 degrees that way.
Can you move your tool rest to the other side of the lathe and run it in reverse?
And stand over there?
Yeah.
Oh,
Does it make the lines go the other way?
I don't know.
You can chop some off. Huh?
I can't really move anything right now.
You have to, you look at.
But you will notice that the grooves are the other direction here. They're going this way, and these are going this way. So I did change the direction of them. But it's just, let's try going from the outside to the inside a little bit. Let's see if that'll help us. Now, actually, I'm going against all the rules here of good turning. Didn't sound good. Yeah, you can see really some movement there. Widened out, catching, doing, it's just too difficult to keep it in a clean cut on that one. So again, it's the learning what you want to do with these tools and how to keep them there. All right, any other questions? I've babbled long enough, I think, on that one.